precisely it is to understand. I'm from the regulatory space for standards of food, and I'm the central licensing authority for the states of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. We basically look at the safety aspects of food, but we were also invited to participate in this program and share what is being happening from the regulatory landscape of food being operationalized through the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, FSSAI. Before we go into the topic which is relevant to what is being discussed in this forum, just a brief of what FSSAI is doing. FSSAI, as you know, is the regulatory agency in the country, basically implementing standards for food, science-based standards for food, whatever be the activity, be it manufacturing, be it distribution, storage. So all the activities governing food is being regulated by the Food Safety Standards Authority of India. And in terms of the operations, what FSSAI is doing, it's basically it's a two-pronged operations, which is mainly the two-pronged operations. One is the licensing perspective. The other one is food imports, the food that enters into the country. It's being tested, and then only it is being released into the into the country. Now, with respect to the licensing, where I am engaged with, we have a platform called as FoSCoS, which is a food safety compliance system. It is completely an online platform wherein the food business operators, we call them as FBOs, they make their applications to the authority through this FoSCoS, they online. And then on scrutiny of the application with respect to the relevant documents that is required as per the kind of business, we have different kinds of businesses. We have manufacturers, we have non-manufacturers, and among manufacturers, we have dairy, vegetable units, slaughterhouses, export-oriented units, exporter manufacturers. So we have different categories of manufacturers. And then on the non-manufacturer side, we have all the distribution, storage, transporters. So those FPOs come under the non-manufacturing side. So the licensing is being done for both the manufacturers and the non-manufacturers. And considering the scope of or the spectrum of the food industry, in terms of starting from a small petty food shop or a tea shop to big players like Nestle or other big business enterprises. So all these units come under the scope of FSSAI. So how the licensing happens is we have two scopes of licenses. One is a state license, the other one is a central license. The state license acts on two wings again. There is a registration followed by a license. Any business which is less than 12 lakhs comes under registration. Businesses which is in the range of 12 lakhs to 20 crore, they come under the purview of license under the state. And any business which is having a value of more than 20 crores, they come under the ambit of the central licenses. And certain businesses exclusively like nutraceutical products, exporters, importers, proprietary food, they come under the direct purview of the central licensing. So this entire aspect of licensing is being done through the FoSCoS online application. And with respect to the food imports, we have another application called as FICS. It's the Food Import Clearance System. Again, that is an integrated clearance system which works in sync with the customs through an iSkate platform. So any commodity of food entering the country through any port of India, it is being tested for its quality, suitability, and safety, and then only food item is allowed inside the country, and that is also done through an online platform called as FICS, that is Food Import Clearance System. In addition, the authority, the FSSAI, has a lot of initiatives. We call them as the Eat Right initiative, wherein aspects like food fortification, wherein essential nutrients are added to food. We have, in terms of sustainability, we have an aspect called as RUCO, which is the repurpose used cooking oil, wherein oil after frying is being sent for biodiesel or soap manufacturing. There are other initiatives like certifying hotels as the hotels are hygiene rated, whether they are following the standards of sanitation and hygiene. We have Eat Right schools, we have Eat Right campuses, we have Bhog. Bhog is the blissful hygienic offering to God, wherein even the religious food or prasad that is being offered in the temples are being certified by FSSAI. So these are all the other initiatives of FSSAI apart from the licensing and the food imports clearance. And the main aspect of with respect to the authorities in terms of the standards being established and the regulations being framed. So here I have three things to say here. We have an act, we have a rule, we have a regulation. So the act is the primary one, which was made in the year 2006, and then it was made effective in the year 2011. We had earlier 6 principal regulations. Now we have around 26 regulations, out of which near about 21 regulations are technical regulations, the other 5 are administrative regulations. The Act empowers the authority to prepare regulations, and in line with that, the authority has been preparing regulations on various aspects, be it licensing or on standards of food or any other aspects, be it packaging or labeling, be it fortification. For every aspect, we have a regulation governing the particular activity. So this is about the FSSAI in nutshell, because I didn't want to run through a presentation detailing everything. So what is being done in FSSAI has been detailed out. With respect to the topic which is being discussed as part of the InkWeek program, what regulations we have in FSSAI which will be applicable, which I can correlate with the topic that is being discussed here is, we have a packaging and labeling regulation. That was an initial principle regulation which was made in the year 2011, followed by now we have an exclusive packaging regulation which was made at the year 2018. And this packaging regulation speaks about ink, the quality of ink that should be used for a food packaging material. And as per that regulation, it states that the ink should meet the IS specification 15495. And the other thing that it states, the packaging regulation states, is the printed part of the package should never be in contact with the food. So this is what, with respect to ink, the packaging regulation speaks about. But the packaging regulation clearly speaks about the type of packaging material that can come in contact with food, be the primary packaging material or the secondary packaging material. Effectively, essentially, governing the technical aspects with related to the packaging material. Whatever be the packaging material, be it paper, be it tin, be it bottle, whatever be it, the packaging regulation clearly defines the standards for the packaging material. Essentially meaning that the ink that goes over the packaging material will not be permeated to the food inside. So the packaging material governs acts as a barrier preventing the ink from getting in contact with the food material. The other regulation that we have is the as people who are associated with inks and packaging, we have is the labeling and the display regulation, which speaks about what should go on the label of a food commodity, be it the naming of the product, be it the ingredients, how the ingredients have to be listed out, be it about the veg logo or the non-veg logo, be it about the claims, what claims can be made and what claims cannot be made, be it about the license number being put on the label. So all those aspects as how the label should be is being discussed in the labeling and display regulation. In case the participants of this program, you'd like to look at what these regulations are, this is very much available in the FSSAI website under the section regulations of FSSAI, the packaging and labeling regulations 2011, followed by packaging regulation 2018, and followed by labeling and display regulations 2020. So the packaging regulation 2011 will be kind of taken off after some time, in effective to the packaging regulation, the labeling and display regulation 2020 coming into place. So this is what I had to share with all of you. from the perspective of food safety regulatory system, and with relevance to whatever we could discuss on Ink. If there are any queries on any topic of FSSAI, I would like to take. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. A lot of important updates that you shared with us, and I'm sure our delegates would have been keenly noting them. And there are a few questions that we have. So, sir, before you take your leave, can we go ahead with those questions?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, can you tell us what is the latest on the ban on newspaper and plastic sheets for restaurant takeaways?
Yeah. See, again, I was talking about the packaging regulation 2018. If you look at the regulation itself clearly states that newspaper cannot be used for packing food, and cannot be used for pressing and then taking the in case of fried items for the oil. With respect to the plastics, the regulation clearly states the quality of plastic. Whatever be the type of plastic, the regulation clearly defines what type of plastic materials can be used with respect to food.
Okay. We've been hearing that FSSAI was in a discussion of developing a labeling standard that involves color coding based on critical criteria such as high fat, high sugar, and others.
Yeah. See, in the labeling and display regulation, which I was discussing to you, which was made effective in 2020, when the original draft was made in 2019, this particular aspect was incorporated, the color coding for high fat, high sugar content.
Correct.
But there were some concerns from the industry, basically concerns that could be understood in terms of from an industry standpoint, declaring that the color coded thing on the label may have a customer preference in terms of there may be a market impact as how the customers choose the product. So based on those concerns, that particular aspect was not carried forward in the regulation. So the regulation in 2020 doesn't have that color coded thing. But going forward, the authority is in continuous consultation with the industry stakeholders as how best the color-coded labels can be, brought into operation.
Thank you, sir. So we don't have a clear roadmap per se on bringing that back.
Now, this is an ongoing process. The industry consultations are happening, and in fact, there are some updates in the website wherein in the advisories you can also look at the discussions happening between the authority and the stakeholders. So there are some takeaways from that meetings also. But then, I think there's still some way forward, that it may take some more time. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Sorry. Can you also give us an update on the strengthening sustainability goals for packaging firms that provide service to the food firms?
No, from a sustainability standpoint, with respect to packaging materials, we have a recent that's there as part of the packaging regulation also. There is an order of FSSAI wherein plastic materials can be recycled and then again used for packaging. But then that particular entity who do that recycling has to take an approval from the authority before entering into the particular process. There are certain criteria for it, which determine the technical aspects. And so essentially, the entity who is doing the recycling process has to get the approval from the authority. There may be some verification done based on the approval will be given, and then the recycled products can be used. This is with respect to plastics alone. What we see in the present scope of permissible options with the authority in terms of recycling, in terms of sustainability. Right. This is with respect to the packaging material. Of course, FSSAI does lost on other sustainability options. Like I was talking about RUCO, the repurpose used cooking oil, which is of course not related to the packing material, but it's to the food product to be recycled for.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. There is also this question about when will GM food regulation come into existence, sir?
No, with respect to genetically modified foods, as of now, we have a draft regulation which is on the enzymes derived from genetically modified sources, which can be used as processing aids in food. Not essentially as food, but as processing aids in food. So as of now, we have only this regulation, which has been uploaded, and then we are waiting for comments from the stakeholders. Based on the comments, it will be finally notified. So this is again only for the enzymes which are derived from genetically modified sources. It is not related to genetically modified food. So I think with respect to genetically modified foods, I think it might take some more time.
Okay, thank you, sir. One last question: will there be a new system for all importers of select crops like rice, wheat, sugarcane, apple, eggplant, maize, and potato?
Uh, you know, from the range of commodities that you have cited, it appears that I see as of now also FSSAI is importing all the commodities that you have told.
Okay.
So, but then with the special emphasis to the question that you have asked, it is understood that it is are they genetically modified and they are permitted to be imported into the country. So
Correct.
essentially, we have to wait for this GM regulations to fall in place, a countrywide acceptance on GM food, and then it has to be technically deliberated, and then only it will be permitted. So that's the status.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and patiently answering all our questions today, sir.
Yeah.
We compliment the FSSAI team for the standards. These have been established by evaluating the data from the industry and international scientific references, which are best suited to the Indian context. Three inputs which we have from the industry, Dr. Arul, if you may.
Yeah.
One, in case of the pesticides, minimum residue limits, one feedback is about the guidelines for monitoring at farm level. For example, some food producers say fixing the default MRL of 0.1 ppm is not advisable. One for the experts to look at. Number two, likewise, my colleagues in What Packaging magazine have been talking to some of the food business operators at a food park in Gujarat. As you're aware, the FSSAI annual return had proposed a clause about an amendment in Form D. The FBO say this is a bit cumbersome to be filed by them, and this includes a number of FOSTAC training plus the inputs about the customer complaints and their resolutions, also product test reports and product category details. Last, there is a proposed clause of an additional step of product verification before applying for license. The industry feedback is that such a restriction should not be introduced as it further delays or extends timelines for grant of licenses. A few humble inputs on behalf of the industry.
No. I need to answer them.
Sure. Please go ahead.
With respect to the annual return filing, see, this is which is again online. Earlier, it was submitted as hard copies, but currently, I was telling about the online platform that we have, which is FoSCoS, which is the platform which I am using for issuance of license. See, the FoSCoS is so designed that it will do a 360-degree profiling of the FBOs. Primarily, and as I told you, ours is not a very small number of entities that we are covering under the licensing scope. Starting from a tea shop to a high business entity, everybody falls under the scope of FSSAI. And then the only mechanism that we have to profile the FPOs is only when they submit annual returns, and whatever details that are asked in the annual. See, we are not making it very stringent as of now in terms of number of FOSTAC trainers or trained employees, or so it is not being very stringently looked at as of now. But then that is something which has to be mandatorily complied by the FPO, something which cannot be leveraged upon by the authority, because the authority has to have an overall understanding. Not only of the technical aspects, but there are certain other inputs derived from that in terms of what is the product output made at a national level, and what is the revenue generated at a national level. So this annual return information is something which will really help. With respect to the second question, the first question of yours in terms of the pesticide residues and the minimal level. Well, see, we have a standards division. We have two big committees. We have a scientific panel and a scientific committee which work out on the standards. And with respect to pesticides, contaminants, and all, or aspects which are directly related to the safety aspect of the food, wherein we cannot have even a slight amount of complacency, or we can't even do away with values here and there. So it has to be stringently complied with. And the third point, again, I don't know, the foods have to be verified as part of the licensing mechanism. It is not something which we cannot verify the food and then give away the license, which is a mandatory part of the licensing process. Each and every line item in the license is being evaluated as what food it is, under which category it fits in, what are the additives permitted for it. So everything is being looked into, and then only the license can be issued. So yeah, I mean, if there are concerns from a specific area, I suppose you told Gujarat, I think they can meet our central licensing authority at Ahmedabad. So for any clarification, so they will be in a position to guide.
Thank you once again. So one more question for you from our audience. This is from Amit Sharma. He wants to know any updates or thoughts on standardization of flexible packaging material for foods. FSSAI had conducted a study on flexible packaging materials before COVID. Any update on that?
So frank admission, I'm not having any information on that as of now. Probably
Okay.
I'll discuss and then I'll get back to you on that. Yeah.
Sure, sir. So we will, Dibya Jyoti, who's been interacting with you, can maybe share a few more questions that we have with you, and we can maybe, share with our delegates at a later point, if that is okay with you.
Right.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you once again for your time and patience. We hope to continue this dialogue between our industry and FSSAI in the future as well.
Thank you, Sriram. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you very much.